Hi, my name is David Cage. I'm the writer and director of Fahrenheit. I just thought there's a few things you should know before you get started.
Huh?
Quantic Dream, who you may know for games like Heavy Rain, Detroit Become Human, and The Nomad Soul, though you deserve some praise if you've managed to beat that last one without getting a brain aneurysm.
But my thing
It's super hard to...
Are known for dipping their French feet in the interactive film genre, where gameplay is kept as simple as possible while providing a very cinematic experience. And while Quantic has iterated many times over the years, with some to extremely great effect, there is one IP that not just finally hitting 20 years back in August, but was a major game that set the design tone for a lot of their current IPs. And that game is Fahrenheit, also known as Indigo Prophecy in America. A title that I actually heard a good bit about back in the ancient times known as the early 2000s, due to its interesting murder mystery plot, but a title that I never really got the chance to experience until now. And that experience can be described in a single word. Why?
Things are never quite what they seem.
There's two things that you'll be asking yourself when you get through Farindigo's story. What the hell and what the f***? Our story begins at the capital of the universe,
New York, capital of the universe.
where Ithleen's prophecy has already taken hold of downtown Manhattan, and a seemingly possessed Lucas Kane, our first protagonist, stabs a poor fool in cold urinal blood. Jesus! He forgot to wash his hands! Finally snapping out of it, Lucas comes to terms with his apparent murder, tries to cover up any evidence of his crime, and leaves the diner while almost forgetting to pay the bill.
The bill for the meal. How could I forget that?
How could you forget that?
So that's our first protagonist down. The next set of main characters involves Carla Valenti and Tyler Miles, two police investigators who have come to the crime scene to solve the case.
Why do they always wait for me to go on duty before they start killing each other in the middle of the night?
Tyler, somebody gets murdered every day in New York.
Carla is your stereotypical independent bachelorette who don't need no man, and Tyler is your stereotypical African American who likes Motown and white women. Very good writing from David Cage. From then on, it's a surreal murder mystery where Lucas tries to find who the real culprits are behind his apparent murder, while Carla and Tyler try to wrap their heads around the actual case. For the first few hours, Fahrenheit was actually not that bad in terms of its setup. It honestly kept me interested for a good while, especially with the whole parallel character arcs where you get to experience each one's perspective. Seeing Lucas freak out in his apartment the day after the incident makes him seem a bit more palpable as a human being, even more so when the police come to check him out. Carla trying to set up the investigation to catch the killer, and Tyler failing to get to work on time because he needed to put one in. A parallel story design that Quantic has carried over to their other games, so you're probably seeing their 1.0 version here. And it's still effective in some capacity. But that's all the good things I have to say about the story, because everything that happens after the setup period immediately becomes both a mess of a narrative and the game spiraling to become one of the most absurd stories you will ever see. Spoilers from here on out, and a bunch of ranting. See, after the beginning, the story starts to become this slow crawl of uninteresting narrative points alongside plot reveals that take a complete 180. No, in fact it's more like a 540 with how often the game does it. When Lucas tries to go back to work, he starts to have a sort of drug-induced sequence where he's being attacked by, and I kid you not, giant green bugs. Or ticks, if I'm trying to be politically correct, I guess. And that's not all, because after further going down the proverbial mystical rabbit hole, the seemingly milquetoast protagonist suddenly becomes Neo. Excuse me? Are you karate kidding me? Lucas actually becomes this friggin' superpowered martial arts expert that can dodge bullets better than Neo himself.
Nope. Nope. Nope.
We go from an interesting surreal murder mystery to the actual Matrix without the actual Matrix. Sacre bleu, David Cage. Then there's the slow bits like Carla and Tyler suddenly going to the gym for 20 minutes and absolutely going nowhere, or Tyler going to the bookstore. Here, by the way, is where Tyler goes on a small errand to find a book for the store owner in exchange for potential information on the killer whose book was left at the crime scene. However, despite the puzzle hoops that you have to solve, he doesn't actually yield any beneficial information.
Is there any way to find out who would have sold this book?
Nah, this book ain't worth enough for any seller to remember it.
Yo, thanks for your help.
That's it! In fact, the important story reveal here is that Tyler inspects the killer's book with a magnifying glass and a piece of evidence falls out, which he could have done by just opening the book to begin with without the need for this entire sequence. It's not just this as well, and there's the inclusion of a scenario where Carla has claustrophobia.
As far back as I can remember, I've been frightened by small spaces.
Like, these inclusions are so out of pocket and provides nothing nor reveals anything important to Carla's character whatsoever. A plot point that's only introduced for the sake of gameplay, and it's not even that good. It's very important for story writing to be made better by asking what's the point, because if unnecessary narratives are just added for no reason at all, then it only hurts the natural progression of the story, which these segments do a lot. But the biggest of all is the turning point in the story where it starts to go from supernatural murder mystery to Illuminati levels of occult mysticism, which actually involves the end of the world with the White Frost. Like, do I need Ciri and Geralt to help these people out? There is zero build-up to this point of the story, and we suddenly come to an end of the world scenario?
All the oceans of the globe are now almost entirely frozen over. The Atlantic Ocean is closing up, and there are only a few hundred miles in the middle of the Pacific which haven't been covered over by the ice flow.
And the main plot device, the indigo child named Jade, is used in the most superficial way possible. She's essentially this character that's revealed to grant power to whoever hears her message, but all she's amounted to being is a mute character for everyone to fight over. Also, remember people, it's not good to suddenly barge into orphanages and randomly kidnap children without explaining things to the caretakers, because this is exactly what Lucas and the antagonist try to do.
Sir? Sir, you can't go in there!
In fact, not even try, they just do. Oh, and let's not forget the third-party enemy in this whole ordeal. In a world where it tries to establish, albeit very terribly, occult mysticism and prophecies, which are supposed to be the forces at work here, the random third party that is introduced later in the story that also want to take advantage of Jade is an advanced AI.
I can, however, annihilate you. A simple touch from me, and you will be erased forever.
Where does he come up with this shit? There's not a single hint or buildup of this anywhere, and suddenly we have ChatGPT involved with end-of-the-world scenarios? Was David Cage just trying to write fanfic of the Matrix or something? Like, huh? Hello, Lucas. I'm the android sent by Cyberlife.
I'm out!
Oh, but that's not all. Don't get me started on the character writing. The cast isn't that out of place for a production title back in 2005, and the voice actors are doing their best, is what I'd like to say. But the way their stories unfold and their character arcs that occur borderline on either being dull or, again, absurd. Lucas pretty much remains one-dimensional throughout the story, and even though he's trying to act really cool after getting his superpowers, his attitude doesn't really seem to change that much.
When Marcus and I were kids, we were inseparable. He's the one who took care of me after our parents died.
Your investigation has too many shadowy areas in it for you to content yourself with the official version. You're here because you think I might have the answers to your questions.
Carla as well, but her turnaround for being allies with Lucas is so fast that it doesn't take much convincing at all. In fact, Lucas just sends her a message and she's already on board.
You got a lot of guts, Mr. Kane. To call my office and ask for a meeting when every cop in the country is hot on your trail. I didn't see that coming.
Not to mention, they're already banging.
Huh?
Can someone please explain to me why David Cage has to have the prime suspect sleep with the lead investigator? Ugh. Even Tyler is easily convinced by Carla at the end with a single sentence that Lucas is innocent, while also being thrown out of the story moments before the ending.
Well, I don't know how all this is gonna end up, but I hope it all works out for you.
Bye, have a beautiful time!
God, even the dialogue doesn't feel like it got a second opinion to make the writing better.
I was just another pawn living my pawn's life. Until...
Oh, I am sorry to cause waiting on you. Your presence here brings honor to my miserable shop. My name is Takyo.
So, what happened here?
The guy who runs the Lavomatic found...
Excuse me? What did you say?
The guy who runs the Lavomatic...
The Lavomatic?
Who runs the Lavomatic?
Lavomatic.
The Lavomatic.
Lavomatic.
The Lavomatic.
Unless I've misheard how a laundromat is pronounced in New York City, who the hell says Lavomatic? I guarantee you that this is David Cage's French writing coming out in the script. Merde. I could go on with the other characters like the now offensively portrayed bookstore owner Takeo, the chief of police who for some reason doesn't believe Carla and Tyler that Lucas has superpowers despite multiple cops who will back their asses up.
Just what are you trying to tell me here? That this guy is Superman? That's your excuse? And you seriously expect me to buy that crap?
And Tyler's girlfriend, Sam. Like, I get it that you're afraid your boyfriend is on the police force and his job puts him in danger, but could you at least give us a reason to like you?
Aren't you going to kiss me?
Nope.
Tyler, no!
At this point, I stopped trying to take the story seriously, and the only way I could enjoy its absurd and wild writing was to think of it like a bad movie. I found myself laughing at this entire story in the same way Tommy Wiseau's acting makes me laugh in The Room. Dated writing and nothing that should be taken to heart unironically, and if you are sober, you may need a drink to sit through this story.
It's kind of like a video game. Have you ever played a video game, Mrs. Morrison?
No.
Each chapter, if you can even call it that, is basically a mini episode where you control a single character or multiple as you play out each scenario. They'll either involve having that character achieve a goal by the end, or you'll have to make different decisions, which I think affects the outcomes of different episodes. That I'm not entirely sure of because I just wasn't compelled to look for them. General gameplay is a third-person game where you move the character around while interacting with other characters and objects. Also, I played on controller for the remake because I heard that mouse and keyboard were the definition of hot garbage. I cannot confirm nor deny, but I can at least say that the controller was comfortably awkward to play. See, the thing about the controls of Indigo I Don't Give a Shit is that you operate each scenario using nothing but the two joysticks and the left or right bumpers, or L1 and R1 for you Sony heads. Your left stick moves your character, but it's your right stick that you have to flick in certain directions to interact. It's not that I don't like it per se, it's just that I really don't like it. I get that it's supposed to emulate the direction and movement of your actions on objects, and I honestly didn't have a single problem with the way it controlled. In fact, it still works perfectly well in their other games, and I actually like the interaction in Detroit Become Human. But does it solely have to be the right control stick? It's like this game dislikes the idea of comfort and simplicity by not using the other buttons and controls, and would rather prioritize the weird interaction for the sake of immersion. And I don't feel that immersed. Which leads us to the QuickTime event. Now, I've found the QTEs of Quantic's other titles to work perfectly fine, and I haven't had any qualms with their level of complexity and response time. But for Indigo, what the f were they thinking? Instead of what looks like buttons that should correspond to the ones on a controller, the game uses both joysticks instead. Joysticks. Joysticks. Why? Now, I thank my sweaty gamer thumbs for being competent to pass every single QTE event that occurred, and mechanically, it's not that complicated at all. At least for me. But the actual implementation of the QTE makes my eyes want to bleed. The game throws it at you without a moment's notice, and the prompt colors that appear on screen are not nearly as contrasted enough for scenes where there's a lot of things moving at once. I know it's supposed to be based on the Simon Says toy, as well as the transparency allowing you to view the scene, but it's so visually cluttered to look at, and I often lose track of what the heck I'm supposed to press. There's also the bumpers that you have to mash in order to complete these types of QTEs, and they weren't so bad, albeit a little fatiguing, but the ones used in places like controlling Carla's breathing during the claustrophobic level are the very definition of terrible design. Okay, so if you were to look at this bar with the control scheme of using the left and right bumpers for the minigame, it would be reasonable to assume that the left bumper causes the bar to go to the left and the right bumper to go to the right. No? No! The bar is gradually moving to the right, and hitting both bumpers moves it to the left. And you have to prevent the line from hitting the edges or you fail. Quantic, you could have made this so much better, just why? Oh, but here's the kicker. The same bar is used for a QTE that involves Lucas trying to cross a beam, but it actually uses the left bumper to move the bar to the left and the right to the right. But what makes it worse is how the game gives you barely any notice when these QTEs will show up. And yes, they can show up at the most random spots. Multiple times I've just wanted to rest and look at the cutscene, only to realize I needed to pick my controller up again and nearly breaking my desk.
That's my brother, Marcus.
Oh shit! What nearly broke me was how god-awful long these scenes take and how many QTEs you have to press. Like, I'm pretty sure I've pressed more inputs in a 5-minute QTE of For Indigo than I have for God of War 1. This is the first QTE-based game that I've ever played where I couldn't blink because I would miss a prompt if I did. Jesus! They also included some stealth sections for the flashback sequences of Lucas and a single first-person shooting minigame, but they're all afterthoughts and they're not all integrated in a way that's meaningful. For what is essentially the beta version to the control schemes you'll find in Quantic's recent games, 2025 at the time of this writing, I'm just glad that they changed their QTE controls for the better. And I'm happy I'll never have to experience something this terrible ever again.
Did I see something? I don't see nothing.
On a technical level, Indigo Prophecy is very indicative of the early 2000s era graphics that were prevalent on the PlayStation 2 and original Xbox. The remastered portion does make almost every asset in the game look a lot cleaner and less pixelated than the original, but you can still tell that it's based on an older graphical engine. Duck soup! A bit outdated in a lot of its parts, but if there is one thing that I do have to commend the game on, it's at least some of the animations that make the characters have close to lifelike movements, for the most part. Despite being absurd, they at least do look cinematic enough, and I would think they were honestly cool for something back in 2005, possibly even better than most games of that era. Some animations are still pretty lazy and stiff. Sound is pretty okay too. A lot of the music that's needed to add mood to scenes is adequate enough, but there's definitely some background tracks that get reused a lot, especially for the gameplay time scenes where you have to make quick decisions. Likewise the effects. Nothing too out of the ordinary for the Foley that's needed, but also nothing that would make the game unique amongst other titles back then. Some of the audio quality is a bit old and doesn't contain as much depth to make the world come alive. The voice cast is alright. They're not entirely bad, and there's at least some personality to each voice, but the characters are literally the most monotone bunch of people that you'll hear, and their vocal progression from start to finish barely changes at all. Most are fine in certain conversations, but they don't sound convincing when it comes to more serious matters. Like, Carla and Tyler, are you ever gonna stop smiling?
The auto lock system opened all of the cell doors. Are you hurt? Are you sure you're all right?
Great, Barney. I feel great. I love playing hide and seek in the dark with a pack of psychopathic killers.
If I do at least like one thing about the presentation, it's the licensed soundtracks. They're all songs from famous artists, so you're probably not going to see it in this video, but they're interestingly used for characters to add some background personality, like Tyler having a lot of funk and Motown, Lucas with alternative music, which makes him very edgy, and Carla, well, the only song I've heard from her was Sandpaper Kisses. Honestly, there's not much to say about the game's presentation that feels compelling enough to still be fun to look at today. If anything else, I get the sense that the animation modeling for Fahrenheit at least helped pave the way for Quantic's future games, whose animations are quite perfect.
Nope.
Well, Indigo, I'm glad I don't have to play it again, Prophecy, has been an interesting game to finally get a chance to play. Does it hold up? In terms of seeing Quantic's evolution of their games, I do at least appreciate how much better their later titles were compared to Indigo. But this game is a bit hard to like in this day and age. I think if I had played this back in 2005, I would have enjoyed its interactive film concept alongside the other titles like Psychonauts, Devil May Cry 3, or God of War, and this title would have made that variety even more fun for that year. It honestly had such a cool start, and I think the story could have been a memorable one too had it been written more consistently and, actually had revisions. But as you've already seen, the later parts of the story just feel so out of tune with what it was trying to set up. It feels like it was either rushed, written poorly, or just a whole bunch of things that ended up this way. If I had to say anything, I at least enjoyed this game ironically, in the same way that watching a train wreck is entertaining, but unless you're a diehard fan that loves these games, or you want to see how Quantic has evolved over the years, Indigo Prophecy / Fahrenheit / I kinda don't care anymore is a title that really doesn't hold up. But that's gonna do it for today, guys. Thanks for sticking around. There will be more games to play and more videos coming soon, so please stay tuned if you'd like to see more. But for now, I'll see you all next time.